"Sir, those girls live on my street," said the young homeless girl to the mourning millionaire. Jordan Hale tightened his grip on the bouquet as he stood before the twin graves. The cold wind brushing past like it was trying to carry away the last pieces of him. 18 months of the same walk, the same silence, the same unspoken ache until a small shadow stopped beside him. A thin, shivering homeless girl with tangled braids looked up at him as if she was seeing a ghost. Then her voice cut straight through the cemetery stillness. "Sir, those girls live on my street." The flowers slipped from Jordan's hand. His heart slammed inside his chest, the world tilting just enough to make him doubt his own balance. He stared at her, searching her young face for any sign of mischief or confusion. But Mila Brooks did not blink. She pointed toward the road as if the impossible was not impossible at all. "I see them every day," she whispered. "Two girls who look exactly like them." Jordan's pulse roared in his ears. Ava and Lyra, the names he had spoken only to gravestones. Every rational thought told him this child was mistaken. But something inside him refused to move on, refused to breathe, refused to believe that she could be wrong. Jordan's breath trembled. If anyone watching this understands how one sentence can break a man open, they would know why moments like this should be heard. Make sure this truth reaches more people by liking the video and subscribing before we continue. The world around him faded, but Mila's words stayed sharp, dangerous, undeniable. The kind of words that could rewrite everything he thought he had lost. Jordan walked the same cracked pathway he had walked for 18 months. His steps slow and deliberate, as if any sudden movement might shatter what little of him was left. He brushed the dust from the twin headstones the way he always did, straightening the small toys he still brought, even though no one else came here anymore. His routine was not healing. It was survival. A ritual carved out of grief, repeated because stopping would feel like letting go of Ava and Lyra forever. But today, the silence did not sit the same. Mila's voice kept slipping into the cracks of his mind. "Those girls live on my street." Jordan tried to shake it off as the confused imagination of a child, yet the sentence kept pulling at the edges of his grief like a thread threatening to unravel everything. He left the cemetery earlier than usual, but the weight in his chest had not lifted. It twisted tighter. He saw Mila walking along the fence line, clutching a torn backpack. He should have ignored her, dismissed her words, walked away, but his feet didn't listen. From a distance, Jordan followed her, telling himself it was only to prove her wrong, only to end the madness before it started. Mila turned down an alley, then into a run-down cluster of houses. Jordan stayed behind, hidden by a row of overgrown shrubs. Kids played on cracked pavement, shouting and chasing each other around broken bicycles. But Jordan wasn't looking for noise. He was looking for two shadows. And then he saw them. On the porch of a peeling blue house, two small silhouettes, one slightly taller, one tilting her head the way Lyra always did, moved behind the curtains. Jordan's breath hitched. A faint, familiar gesture made his vision blur. The smaller figure brushing her wrist the exact way Ava used to when she was nervous. He blinked hard, gripping the fence so tightly the rusted metal bit into his palm. The logical part of his mind screamed that grief was playing tricks, that children resemble each other all the time. But the part of him that buried his daughters told him otherwise. Am I losing my mind? Or did Serena lie to me? He muttered under his breath, the words tasting like betrayal and fear, mixed with something he had not felt in months' hope. The silhouettes shifted again. Jordan felt the ground tilt, the certainty of his world cracking open as the impossible began to feel disturbingly real. Jordan parked outside his mansion and let the engine run long after he had pulled into the driveway. The lights inside the house glowed softly through the windows, but he could not bring himself to walk through the front door. For the first time since the funeral, the silence waiting inside felt unfamiliar, almost dishonest. Mila's words, the silhouettes in the window, the way his heart had reacted, none of it would leave him alone. He leaned back in the seat, hands gripping the steering wheel. If there was even a 1% chance that the girls in that house were Ava and Lyra, he needed to know. And if he was wrong, then he would at least have proof that grief had twisted his senses, not reality. Jordan pulled out his phone and made 3 quiet calls, one to a private investigation firm, One to a data analyst he trusted, and one to a retired detective who owed him a favor. He did not tell a single friend or family member what he was doing. If he was mistaken, he wanted the humiliation to stay buried with him. The next few days turned into a silent hunt for answers. He sat in his study while investigators scanned old birth certificates and compared signatures. Nothing unusual appeared there, yet something about Serena's handwriting on the documents stirred a strange unease. Police accident reports from 18 months ago were pulled, repulled, and examined line by line. The investigator paused more than once, unsure why certain details felt too clean, too perfectly prepared. Surveillance footage from the street Mila had shown him arrived next. Jordan watched from his office chair as two small girls slipped in and out of that blue house at different hours. Always careful, always quiet. Their hair, their height, their movements, they matched Ava and Lyra disturbingly well. But the moment everything twisted was when the financial investigator called. Jordan, something is off. Transfers linked to Serena's personal accounts continued long after the date of the accident. The words punched straight through him. He leaned forward, staring at spreadsheets full of numbers that should not exist. Payments marked as child care expenses appeared every few weeks, consistent, clean, and impossible. That money should have stopped the day the twins were declared dead. Jordan rubbed his face, refusing to jump to the conclusion flashing in his mind. Maybe it was a clerical error. Maybe Serena forgot to close an account. Maybe. But the numbers kept lining up in a way that left no room for comforting explanations. Something was wrong. And for the first time since the funeral, Jordan felt a new kind of fear, rising fear that the truth was far more twisted than grief had ever allowed him to imagine. Jordan kept every file spread across his study desk, but his hands stayed perfectly still. His eyes moved, his pulse climbed, yet on the surface, he looked calm. Almost frozen. The newest report from his private investigators lay on top, and it was the first one that made his breath stop. Detective Ron Mercer. A name Jordan recognized from the day of the accident. The officer who looked him in the eye and told him there was nothing he could do, that the case was closed, that the bodies were unrecoverable. Now the investigators had proof that Ron Mercer was the same officer who signed off on the death. Paperwork, the paperwork that suddenly looked forged. Jordan read the signature again. Same slant, same pressure marks, same pen stroke. Except now, something was wrong. Everything was wrong. The investigators' notes continued with a chilling timeline. It detailed a quiet pattern of movements, medical forms filed weeks after the supposed accident, appointment records in a clinic across the state, and a set of blurry surveillance captures showing two small girls being escorted into an unmarked car. Jordan leaned forward, gripping the edges of the desk. His daughters. Maybe alive. Maybe hidden. Moved under Serena's orders. A burn spread through his chest. Not loud anger, but a controlled fire that made his jaw tighten. How long had she lied to him? How many nights did she sit beside him while he mourned, knowing the truth? The next file contained an audio recording. Jordan hesitated only once before pressing play. A private investigator's voice came through, steady but uneasy. I interviewed a nurse from the old clinic. She described a woman who visited the girls at least twice. Tall, dark hair, expensive coat, soft voice. She said the woman always signed in under different names, but, sir, the description is nearly identical to Serena. The room blurred for a moment. Jordan did not blink. He did not move. He simply listened. The nurse had also said the woman brought gifts. She brushed the girls' hair. She spoke to them like a mother would. Then she disappeared each time before anyone could ask questions. Jordan felt the floor tilt under him, but he held himself upright. His fury did not explode. It condensed into something sharper, colder, more deliberate. If Serena faked the deaths, it was not only manipulation, it was not only betrayal, it was a crime, and she let him bury memories that were never supposed to be graves. He closed the folder slowly. The next step was clear, but dangerous. He needed answers from Serena. He needed the truth. But not without complete proof, not without every document, every witness, every piece of the puzzle locked in place. Jordan stood up, calm as a storm before breaking. "Serena," he whispered to the empty room, "whatever you did, I will find it." He was ready to confront her not with rage but with evidence. And evidence was something she could not run from. Jordan arrived at the cafe early, parking in the shadowed lot across the street. The restaurant glowed warmly through the windows, but he did not step inside yet. His hands rested lightly on the steering wheel, fingers tracing the leather, while his mind ran every possibility. He did not allow his chest to tighten. Emotion would not betray him here. Serena entered 15 minutes later, heels clicking with the same confidence she had shown 18 months ago. She smiled, smooth and practiced, scanning the room until her gaze landed on Jordan. She approached the table, expecting a controlled discussion about visitation rights, assuming he was still the grieving, predictable man she had left behind. Jordan rose, nodded politely, and gestured toward the chair opposite him. His voice was calm, even casual, almost disarming. "Serena, it has been a while. How are the girls?" She smiled faintly. "Ava and Lyra are fine, adjusting well. You know how children are?" Her words were clipped, careful. Jordan leaned back, resting his hands on the table. "I have been thinking a lot about that day. The accident." He paused, letting the silence settle over her. "It must have been terrifying for you too, right?" Serena nodded, but the twitch in her hand betrayed her. "Yes, terrifying. Very. Unexpected." She laughed softly, a sound that did not reach her eyes. Jordan sipped his coffee slowly, keeping his expression neutral. Every word from Serena was being recorded through the device hidden beneath his coat. The conversation flowed naturally at first, but he guided it with precision. Asking about the girls, the timing of her moves, the money she claimed was for their care, and subtly mentioning Detective Ron Mercer. Her voice hardened, defensive, but she was careful to maintain a veneer of composure. "Jordan, you are making a lot of assumptions. Everything I did was for their safety." He nodded slowly. "Of course, but some of the reports from that time suggest otherwise." Her eyes flicked toward his hands. She could not see the recorder, but she could feel the trap tightening. Jordan spoke calmly, almost conversationally, and yet each question forced Serena into the corner she did not know existed. "You know, Detective Mercer's files show multiple inconsistencies in the paperwork regarding Ava and Lyra's accident." Jordan continued lightly. "And there were several financial transfers from your account around the same time." Serena faltered. She shifted in her chair. I only did what was necessary." Jordan's silence was louder than any accusation. He waited. Let the weight of his calm stare push her further. Her confidence began to crack. Words stumbled. Corrections rushed out faster than she could manage. Yes, but it was for their protection." Not she stopped, eyes widening as she realized how tangled she sounded. Jordan's patience stretched the moment, making her overexpose herself. Every slip, every anxious pause, every hurried correction was being recorded. Finally, she said, almost without thinking, "David, I made them. I made it look like they were gone so I could. Jordan did not interrupt. The rest hung in the air, undeniable. He reached subtly under the table and pressed a small button on the recorder, ensuring this final, self-incriminating confession had been captured. Her face paled. She realized too late that this conversation was no casual dinner, no ordinary negotiation. Every lie she had told, every manipulation she had carefully hidden, had just been exposed in the most inescapable way. Jordan folded his hands calmly, eyes steady, the calm before the storm. The trap had worked. Serena had sealed her own fate. Jordan sat in his study, the city lights reflecting off the polished hardwood floor. Files spread around him like a battlefield map. Every document, every photograph, every recording from the private investigators had been meticulously organized. He did not allow himself to breathe too quickly. One mistake now could undo months of planning. He picked up his phone and called Elias Ford, his trusted attorney, explaining calmly, "Elias, everything we have collected, the recordings, the bank transfers, Mercer's documents, send the full package to your office. Make sure nothing is omitted. By the time Elias arrived, he had already skimmed the digital files and was visibly shaken. He sat down heavily in the leather chair, opening one of the folders. "Jordan, I have never seen such thorough work. If this is true, Serena's entire story collapses." Jordan did not respond immediately. He only slid the first stack of printed reports across the desk. "It is true, Elias, and she will not have a chance to manipulate the system. We file simultaneously with the DA and the FBI. No gaps. No delays." Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The legal strategy was delicate. If Serena got wind of any of this too soon, she could vanish or destroy the evidence. Each file, each transaction, each recorded confession had to be secured and submitted at the exact right moment. Detective Ron Mercer's involvement had elevated the case to a federal level. His signature on the false death certificates, combined with the bribery and falsified reports, made it impossible for local authorities to ignore. The FBI now had a reason to move immediately. Jordan's mind ran over every detail again. The girls had to be recovered safely. Serena could not flee. Mercer could not interfere. Every contingency had to be accounted for. He checked in one last time with the PI team, confirming surveillance and noting escape routes, just in case. The night was long. Hours stretched endlessly as Jordan waited for Elias to finalize the submissions. He did not pace. He did not shout. He only sat, thinking, breathing, and listening to the distant hum of the city below. Each minute brought the stakes closer to the breaking point. Finally, Elias looked up, a rare smile cracking his serious expression. "All submissions are complete. DA has received the files. FBI is ready. There is no way Serena can maneuver around this. The arrest will be executed at the earliest possible hour tomorrow." Jordan leaned back in his chair, finally allowing a small measure of relief to touch him. Tomorrow would be the day everything he had uncovered, the lies, the manipulation, the theft, would be exposed. Serena's empire of deceit would collapse, and the girls would finally be returned to him. Even in the quiet, Jordan's thoughts were on Ava and Lyra. The hardest part was still ahead, watching them process the truth after months of lies. But justice was in motion now, and for the first time in 18 months, he felt the faint stirrings of hope. If anyone watching this understands the power of persistence and the lengths a parent will go to protect their children, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to follow the rest of this story. Serena stepped out of her modest home that morning, coffee in hand, expecting nothing more than a routine day. The sun reflected off the windows of her small house on Mila Street, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the storm about to hit. She adjusted her blazer, confident as always, completely unaware that the world she had meticulously controlled was about to collapse. From across the street, Jordan Hale observed silently from his car. He did not breathe loudly. He did not twitch. Every detail of the operation had been planned, and now it was unfolding exactly as it should. Federal agents in sharp suits and badges gleaming emerged quickly, moving with authority and precision. Serena froze, coffee spilling slightly from her cup as the first words cut through the quiet morning air. "Serena Hale, you are under arrest." Her eyes widened, panic overtaking the practiced arrogance that had become her armor. "No, this is a mistake." One agent stepped forward, holding a printed warrant, while another began securing the scene. Serena's protests fell flat. Crushed by the mountain of evidence Jordan had assembled, the recordings, financial documents, and the undeniable proof of her deception. She attempted to flee toward the house, but agents blocked her path, guiding her carefully yet firmly toward the awaiting vehicles. Detective Ron Mercer, who had signed off on the fraudulent paperwork, faced his own downfall the same morning. Arrested at his precinct while he thought the city was oblivious, Mercer could not escape accountability. Jordan watched from a distance as the corrupt officer was led out in handcuffs. Realizing justice extended beyond Serena alone, inside the house, private investigators and social services moved with quiet efficiency. Jordan entered carefully once the agents confirmed the girl's safety. Ava and Lyra were hesitant at first, their young faces clouded with confusion. 18 months of believing their father had abandoned them had left scars that no immediate hug could erase. "Daddy," Ava whispered, eyes wide, voice trembling. Jordan knelt slowly, keeping his own emotions contained, and opened his arms. It is me, Ava. Lyra. It is really me. Lyra approached cautiously, then broke into sobs as she sank into Jordan's embrace. The moment was fragile, heart-wrenching, and yet filled with a depth of relief that only months of hidden suffering could create. He did not rush them. He simply held them, letting the tears fall quietly, a father reclaiming the life that had been stolen from him. Outside, Serena struggled against the agents, attempting to scream, to manipulate, to rewrite reality. I did it for them. You cannot understand. But every protest, every excuse, was obliterated by the irrefutable recordings Jordan had collected. Her lies had no place, no strength, and no audience willing to believe her. The public humiliation began almost immediately. Agents escorted Serena to a waiting vehicle, cameras and reporters catching every motion. News outlets were already prepared with the story. The ex-wife who faked the deaths of her children to manipulate finances, the corrupt officer involved, and the millionaire father who refused to accept deceit. Jordan remained distant, a silent figure witnessing the collapse of a woman who had underestimated the power of determination combined with evidence. As Ava and Lyra clung to him, Jordan's heart throbbed, not with anger, but with the sharp sweetness of victory. He whispered softly to them, "You are safe now. I will never let anyone take you from me again." The agents led Serena into custody while Jordan watched his daughters, their laughter beginning to return in small, cautious bursts. Mila Brooks, standing quietly nearby, offered a shy smile, her small courage having sparked the chain of events that restored an entire family. This was not only justice for Jordan, but a reckoning for Serena, one that ensured the safety, dignity, and future of Ava and Lyra. And as the morning sun climbed higher, Jordan finally allowed himself a small measure of relief, knowing that 18 months of relentless pursuit, planning, and patience had culminated in the restoration of everything that truly mattered. If anyone watching this feels the power of persistence and the lengths a parent will go to protect their children, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to see the complete story unfold. The courtroom was tense as Serena, Hale, and Detective Ron Mercer faced the consequences of their actions. Prosecutors moved methodically, presenting audio recordings that captured Serena admitting to faking the twins' deaths. Every word she had spoken during the secret meeting with Jordan played through the speakers, echoing clearly in the silent room. The jurors shifted uneasily, absorbing the magnitude of the deceit. Next came the bank records, meticulously tracing the alimony money intended for Ava and Lyra directly to Serena's luxury expenses. Each screenshot, each transfer, painted a vivid picture of deliberate theft and manipulation. Then the falsified police reports were laid out, exposing Mercer's corruption and showing the systemic betrayal that had allowed Serena's deception to flourish for months. Jordan watched quietly, his expression steady. He did not gloat. Every detail of evidence strengthened the case, and every silent moment in the courtroom reinforced the weight of justice. The twins sat nearby, holding hands, their small faces attentive, yet shielded by Elias Ford's careful positioning. The jury deliberated, each minute stretching painfully long for Serena, who had previously believed her plan was untouchable. The tension was tangible, the stakes monumental, yet Jordan's presence exuded calm authority. He knew the evidence was unshakable. Finally, the verdict was read. Serena Hale received 22 years in prison with no possibility of parole for 15 years, charged with document fraud, parental abduction, extortion, and conspiracy to corrupt a public official. Mercer received 12 years stripped of his pension and law enforcement privileges. The courtroom erupted with a mixture of shock, relief, and whispered acknowledgement of justice served. Jordan's attention returned immediately to Ava and Lyra. Their eyes met his, wide with understanding that their father had fought tirelessly to reclaim the life stolen from them. He reached for their hands, squeezing gently, conveying a silent promise that their future would be safe, loving, and free from manipulation. Outside the courthouse, cameras swarmed, capturing the public spectacle. The story spread across news networks and social media. reinforcing the lesson that deceit and greed could never outmatch determination, love, and meticulous planning. As Jordan walked the girls toward the car, their laughter began to return, fragile yet genuine. The family's journey of pain had finally shifted into a path of restoration. If anyone watching this feels inspired by the power of truth and resilience, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can witness every moment of justice and redemption. Sunlight streamed across the backyard of Jordan Hale's renovated mansion, glinting off the pool where Ava and Lyra laughed freely for the first time in nearly 2 years. The twins had grown into resilient, confident children, their fear of abandonment slowly replaced with trust and joy. Therapy sessions had helped them process the trauma of Serena's betrayal, and school offered new friends and a sense of normalcy that Jordan had fought tirelessly to secure. Jordan had transformed the pain of loss into purpose. He founded the Ava and Lyra Foundation, dedicated to supporting children who had suffered from parental fraud, neglect, or abuse. Each program, scholarship, and mentorship initiative carried the quiet pride of a father who refused to let others' cruelty define his daughters' lives. His business flourished alongside, expanding into family-focused real estate developments. Yet Jordan's primary focus remained emotional healing and family stability. One crisp morning, Jordan returned to the city cemetery, this time not for grief but to meet Mila Brooks, the brave 10-year-old girl whose words had sparked the investigation that saved his daughters. Mila had grown, her small frame stronger and her eyes filled with determination. Jordan enrolled her in a top private school, established a trust for her future, and reminded her that courage and honesty could change lives in ways most adults could not imagine. Watching Ava and Lyra ride their bicycles along the driveway, their laughter mingling with the gentle wind, Jordan allowed himself a quiet smile. The trauma of the past was not erased, but it had been transformed into a narrative of love, resilience, and justice. Every step he had taken, from cemetery visits to courtroom battles, had culminated in a home filled with life, trust, and unconditional support. Stories like these, where justice triumphs over deceit and the smallest voices can ignite monumental change, deserve to be heard. If this journey touched your heart, share it with others. Like the video and subscribe to the channel to continue witnessing stories of courage, family, and unwavering determination, proving that even the deepest betrayals can lead to the most powerful victories.